Hello marketer, it's Ty here and welcome to another episode of Lean Mean Marketing Teams. I'm excited to welcome our guest Luigi Prestinenzi, co-founder and head of growth at Sales IQ, to the show today. Luigi has over 20 years sales experience, hosts a podcast Sales IQ, and helps organizations such as Hubspot, DocuSign, SAP and Salesforce transform their sales results through the sales enablement courses, training and coaching that Luigi and his organization provides. This is a fun conversation about all things sales and marketing alignment. So whether you're running a sales team, whether you need to build a modern sales team, or whether you just need to better understand and align with the sales team, there'll be plenty in this episode for you. We start by covering off the typical roles and functions in a sales team and how structures will never be the same after COVID. We cover off the sales funnel and what roles you need at each stage, from SDRs or sales development reps to AEs and AMs or account execs and account managers, through to the critical role of the sales manager, and not forgetting customer success and the crucial role they play in retaining and expanding clients. We even discuss the rise of the chief revenue officer and the emerging roles like sales ops and engineers. We talk about different sales structures, from the assembly line or funnel to the island or 360 role through to the pod, and the importance of context when designing the right sales structure. We talk about the importance of incentivization, what separates good salespeople from the great ones, and the one technique you must use in every salesperson interview. We even cover off the key sales tech tools that a team needs to be successful. Then we switch gears to discuss why sales and marketing teams are often at loggerheads, and how to build trust and align with sales by developing a deep, shared understanding of the customer and aligning on metrics and goals wherever possible. As marketers, we're in the game of driving revenue, as is sales, so the better we work with them, the greater chance we have of improving the customer journey and the greater the chance the organization has of driving results. I think the rise of the CRO will also continue, so with that in mind, strap yourself in and upskill in this vital arena. As you can tell by this intro, there is a lot covered in the show, so as always, we've done you a favor and pulled out all the tips and strategies into a neat 3 to 5 page PDF summary, handcrafted by Dylan on our team. He listens back and summarizes the chat into the key takeaways to save you getting your phone or notepad out every 5 minutes. I've said it before, the notes are the cheese to the podcast biscuit. They complement each other to cement your learning and help you take action. To grab the notes, follow the link to the website in the show notes or head to growthgenerators.io, head to the podcast section, look out for this episode and download the notes. Thank you and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes, where you'll hear from leading CMOs and thought leaders about what it takes to create a high-performance marketing team. This podcast is brought to you by Growth Generators, a consulting firm that helps CMOs design and build modern marketing teams that drive growth. If you need help optimizing your marketing team, head to growthgenerators.io. Now, let's get on to the show.
Welcome Luigi Prestinenzi, founder of Sales IQ Global and host of the Sales IQ podcast to the Lean Mean Marketing Teams podcast.
Mate, thank you very much for having me on the show. It's great to be on the other end of the microphone for once.
Yeah, excited to have you on the show. I've actually been listening to a few of your podcasts, and look, sales and marketing obviously are kind of two parts of a similar equation, and we've touched on sales and marketing to a little degree on some of our episodes, but we've never gone deep into it. So I'd love to chat about how to align marketing and sales to enable the customer journey as one kind of major part of the discussion. And then with your expertise, I'd love to just deep dive into the different roles, responsibilities, and maybe even structures within a sales team and how that varies between industries. How does that sound?
Yeah, mate, what a great topics to be covering, especially in this time.
Yeah, just for any marketing leader, they might either have a sales team already within their department, or they may be working alongside one, or they may be thinking about a CRO position in future. So hopefully it can help any of those in any of those positions to lead the teams and get the right teams in place and getting them working effectively together. But before we get into that, can you share us one or two pivotal moments in your career that had the greatest impact on where you are today?
Yeah, probably the greatest impact was working in a very large organization, manufacturing business, but also had a huge sales side of their business. Very well-known brand in Australia and across New Zealand. I was in the customer service side. I really wanted to become a sales rep. Right back in the day, this is going on over 20 years. That shows my age, right? You know, the sales rep, the company car, the vest,
Yep.
the expense account, the conferences, the golf trips. And after 3 attempts, I was told you can't sell. So critical moment number 1. And so from there, I went on a bit of a journey. And the critical moment number 2 was when I signed that company up to train their pretty much entire manufacturing division for a contract worth $4 million. So it was kind of like
wow. The exact same company that said you couldn't sell. I love it.
Yeah. So they're probably 2 key moments. I mean, there's so many others that have helped shape me to who I am today, but the journey of selling and sales never stops.
So getting told you can't sell, did that just put fire in your belly to learn how to do it or to find the right organization that believed in you?
Yeah, well, it's everything I'd ever done. I didn't do very well at school, so it's not as if I had something to fall back on. I was great in call centers. I was doing a lot of outbound stuff early in the day for a company called Salesforce, actually. They were an outsourcer in Carlton, had about 1,000 people. Yeah. And I was on the phones and I was good. You know, I was 17, 18, and I was great. But everybody in Australia, for some reason, really looked down upon, like, you work as a telemarketer. Like, now you're like an SDR. It's like cool to be an SDR at a tech firm.
Yeah.
It wasn't cool for us 20 years ago, right?
New title and different organization, and suddenly it's cool.
All of a sudden you work for Drift, you're an SDR at Drift. Oh man, what a job. So it's a bit, it was frowned upon. But I tell you what, like, the learning I got in the call center, in the boiler room type, the telecom telpads, mate. Like, we didn't even have a dial. It was literally punched a pad, you had the sheet, you knocked the name off the list, and you went to the next one. And you do that 100 times, right? Yeah, there's no tech stack there.
No. And so you grow pretty thick skin and learn to handle rejection and objections, right? And for the audience's benefit, can you tell us a little bit about Sales IQ Global?
We're an enablement provider working with companies. We've got a very clear ICP. We work with a lot of companies within the technology space, but we also work with obviously companies outside. But we work alongside enablement professionals in helping enable the sales teams to create more pipeline. So one of the biggest challenges for most sales organizations at the moment, or most organizations, is just a lack of quality opportunity pipeline. And marketing can only do so much. Like, there's only so much demand they can create, but in order to achieve a certain target, there needs to be pipeline creation from the sales team. And so, you know, as you've probably seen some of the stats, 60 to 70% of sales teams are not meeting target. And that's because they're not creating enough pipeline. So that's the first problem domain we help organizations fix, by enabling sellers to be very clear about who they're talking to and the message that they need to talk to them with, enabling them the skills to create pipeline. So that's an enablement piece that we work with. And within that, there's a bit of consulting, there's training, there's e-learning, there's a whole combination of things that we use. But that's the key problem area that we work with. We work with companies from, you know, we're training people from DocuSign to Hubspot to Salesforce, the Bocus telecommunications, F45 training. So yeah, and a key thing for the ICP though, it's making sure we're working with organizations that are committed to enablement. So not, I just need to tick the box, pay some money for training. They're actually the wrong fit for us. So
they want to actually drive results and performance and see a return. So you want to.
They're the clients we want to work with.
Yeah. Okay, so then before we get into the sales and marketing alignment piece, I think it'd be good to just build some common understanding about the typical roles and functions in a sales team. I know titles and composition of roles may vary, and we've just talked about how telemarketers swap to an SDR over time, but I imagine there's still some consistency in the functions and roles needed in a sales team. I kind of like the sales funnel as a way to think about the different roles needed at each stage. And is that how you usually describe the roles in different sales teams, or how would you describe the different roles and functions in a sales team?
The way in which tech companies have really looked at the sales and marketing model is changing the way traditional companies are now looking at it, right? And I think you could actually, if you ask this question pre-COVID, you would get a different answer, because I think we have to look at now things as pre-COVID, post-COVID, because COVID's actually changed the way in which sales teams will be structured moving forward, right? And I'll break that down in a moment. But in a traditional sales or marketing and sales type business, you'd have a lot of sellers would be kind of the 360 role. They would hunt, they would acquire, they would manage, right? Some businesses would have the account management piece, but it's a very traditional model. As these businesses matured, they would go, well, we'd have a business development function and we'd have an account management function, right? So traditionally, in a lot of those businesses, you're seeing a very much a kind of BD account management structure. What tech's done is they've really taken the assembly line model, like a manufacturing model, and they've adapted that into the sales process and said, right, how do we get people focused on a particular part of the sales journey? So marketing do their thing, they create demand. We have people that are qualified leads in, which is SDR, BDR, MRR, LDR. Then you'll have AEs, which will be, depending on the type of business you work for, segmented by market size. So, SMB, mid-market, enterprise, or if you like Salesforce.com, you've got government, health. They've completely cut that TAM up.
Yeah. And AEs for account exec, right? For anyone that
doesn't
know it. Yeah.
Then senior AEs. And then the third bucket would be kind of your customer success. And I think the reason why we need to look at SaaS subscription models differently, it's people, they're not buying at once. I mean, we both come from the education, environment. People buy a degree, they might do a post-grad, but it's kind of cradle to the grave kind of concept, right? With SaaS, they're buying it every single month or every single year. And if you're not careful, you churn. You're going to have attrition. People are going to leave if they don't see value. So that time to value is critical, right? So this is where the function and the alignment model is changing from siloed to a really aligned model where marketing and sales no longer sit side by side. They're surrounding the customer. You've got the customer at the center. You've got marketing, sales, and customer success all surrounding that customer because it's a flywheel mentality, right? It's a never-ending mentality. And I mean, Hubspot is probably an incredible business for demonstrating how the flywheel can actually grow. And they're product-led. They're an incredible business to look at, or Xero.com. So, and we are now going to be seeing that in traditional sales structured businesses, because pre-COVID, you would look at a business and go, let's cut our territory up. Let's put reps in the field. They can go visit their customers. They can service, build relationships, take orders. COVID's kicked in. Sellers inside. Customers still buying. CEOs looking at their structure going, mate, I've got a fleet. I've got expense accounts. I've got mobile phones. I've got laptops. And I've got time in the car.
Yeah. Time on planes when they open up again. Yeah.
But my territory is still performing. Why do I need to have such an expensive cost structure in a sales division that can be now done from an inside model? And I can actually service more customers with one person from an inside model because I don't have the time on travel. So now I think we're going to see a change to a lot of sales structures moving forward. I don't necessarily think it's going to be completely inside. I think it's going to be a hybrid model, but more specialized roles. So how do we get more product specialists to help the insiders when they need help, right? And how do we have less people on the road that can service when the customer wants to see face-to-face? Because the other change has been in the way that people are buying, right? The customers have now gone, well, I've been buying virtually. Like if I asked some customers 2 years ago to jump on Zoom, probably would have been reluctant. Now the first place people go to is, do you want to Zoom? Mm-hmm. Right?
Yeah. It's easier for both parties, right?
It's changed. So organizations are having to now look at that, and they are looking at it because it's very hard not to when you're looking at your P&L and you're seeing a big cost structure sitting there. But it's a great opportunity for sales leaders to go, well, how do I now remodel that to give that customer a better experience?
Yeah. And I love that. Like I've actually used SaaS as the model when I'm consulting to look at sales structures, because I think they're always at that cutting edge of innovative ways to structure teams. And for all those reasons you mentioned, time has changed, but I think there's also there's difference in skill sets, right? Between a hunter and a farmer, or between the SDR and the AE and the AAM. Some just have thick skin and don't mind getting rejected, and they're happy to punch the phone or send the emails and qualify the leads and find out if there's an interest. They got the budget, they got the control. And then those that are great at the demos and closing versus those that want to manage and build and maintain and upsell and expand a client. And I think the old model of the 360 or the island, like, you're not going to be playing to your strengths all the time, right? Someone's either a hunter or they're a farmer generally. Yeah. And they'll lean into where they're most comfortable. And therefore, you think you're getting economies because you might only be paying a couple of staff that are doing everything. You think that's more cost effective, but is it? Versus paying them slightly differently to focus on one thing really well.
Salesforce, their predictable revenue model that they implemented early on, uber successful. And I think now, like, it's still an uber successful model. It's got to be iterated now. Like anything, it needs to be, we've got product-led growth, for example, which is a community-led growth. And I think, this is where I love, and I often say to sellers, and I pretty much say this to every seller I coach, you're a marketer. Like, if you're selling, your marketing now, because your engagement in top of the funnel activities, working with marketing from an ABM, an account-based marketing perspective, and really thinking about your ICP and really going deep. And this is what's awesome. And I know that you're working at Curtin where you worked. One great thing that I think business brands in B2B, consumer marketers, I think have the edge. And I actually reckon more consumer marketers should work in enterprise, business to business, because they think with more creativity. Well, not all the time, and if you have a look at some of the great brands, there's a brand called Gong. If you ever have it, Gong.
Heard of them.
Like their marketing is just incredible.
Yeah, that's a sales listening tool, right?
Yeah, mate, they are just like the guys there, Udi, and like the marketing they do. I'm just in awe of, right? Yeah, it's not boring. It's just engaging. It's creative. It's put a lot of thought into it. It's actually like more consumer marketing, but they're marketing to businesses.
Yeah. And you mentioned HubSpot before, and I think that's a really interesting one to touch on, because obviously they, were so instrumental in the rise of content marketing, right? And inbound leads, and they had all their tools, and they still do, from their website audits and other things, top of the funnel to get people in. But, most people from outside probably think, they wouldn't do outbound, would they? Or have a large sales team, but they do, right? Add fuel to the fire. Like, they are a totally integrated sales and marketing team. And I think it'd be easy to just think they're doing inbound, but you need that outbound. Inbound can only get you so far, and it saturates at a certain point in time. And there's also stats, isn't there, around outbound can get you a higher deal size by hunting the right target clients at a higher value and closing them when there may be less competition, because they may not be comparing you against a number of vendors if you get them at the right time.
There's some good data around companies that have a clearly defined ICP, ideal customer profile, have a 68% higher win rate than those that don't, right? So that and the data just continues to show that. And I think, and I've been fortunate to coach some guys at HubSpot and in outbound. And I think, again, you can do inbound poorly, just like you can do outbound poorly. We've all seen the campaign, some campaigns, you're looking at the message, you're like, this doesn't resonate with me. And outbound, great prospecting or great outreach is just a really good message that's targeted to the right person, and it's talking to them. It's creating an individual experience. It's just like inbound, right? But you've got to put thought behind it. And if you're gonna 1,000 emails out through a sequencing tool that's generic, that's non-targeted, of course you're going to get a 1%, open rate. So.
Yeah. And I think you had a post recently on this, that it's about starting a conversation around you finding a problem that you might be able to help solve rather than pushing a solution kind of down their throat. So you mentioned some of that, the assembly line, the 360 role. Have you seen pods as well, like almost squads of teams working together, and almost therefore you have different teams with similar targets? They might have different territories, but there's almost some internal competition created by that. Does that ever work?
I often say it's more mature businesses are implementing the pod model, right? They're really starting to look at the TAM. They're not on what's called the MQL hamster wheel, where they're just flooding top of funnel with any type of record and call it a lead. They're really thoughtful about their playbooks, and again, it's a maturer business division, right? But like anything, pods versus assembly lines, they both need to be fit to purpose for the organization. So there's not just one size fits all approach. It needs to be, the blueprint needs to be brought in, looked upon. Sometimes this just doesn't fit. Sometimes, like I worked with a startup who they're very successful now. They were targeting the childcare sector, and they were targeting, childcare play centers to sell their tech to. LinkedIn as a channel didn't work because they're not on LinkedIn. There's people it was very difficult to get their mobile phone. They actually had to door knock. Right?
Yeah.
Now, if you told people this story, they go, what do you mean? But that business is valued at I think they're valued at like $500 million now.
Yeah.
But the early days was door knocking.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Right. Going out, putting on events, old school, sending stuff in the mail. They did eventually build up through the events and the sponsorships and things that they did. But if they didn't do that early, walk into the center, they wouldn't have got the traction they needed. So,
and it's like a lot of early stage businesses, you have to do things that don't scale, don't you? It's find the customers if they're hard to find, or test things with solutions that may be more you spending your own time if you're the founder versus someone else, to see what works and whether you've got a product they want to buy. And until you work out how to reach that market in a more scalable way. One other really critical role that maybe doesn't get a lot of attention is a sales manager. Like, how important is that role, and what mistakes do you often see organizations make in regards to that role?
I think there's a big gap there. Often, from what I've seen, and I've been working in the education space, business and enterprise education space for over 15 years now. So most sales leaders would get promoted because they were a really good seller, and they take the role not really given any training. The most training they've got is training by seeing. So this was my manager. This is how he managed me. So I like this part, or I didn't like that part, right? Now we're seeing at the moment in the sales leaders average tenure is 18 months for a variety of reasons. They're either getting pushed out the door, they're burning out, they've got a team, not enough coaching. So average seller gets about one coaching session every 12 weeks. But we know that coaching actually improves win rates.
Yeah. There's studies on it, right? It clearly demonstrates impact. Yeah.
Yeah. But, the sales leaders aren't equipped with the right tools. And then you add technology, reporting, and it's a recipe for disaster. And so the leaders play a critical role, because especially with high growth or hyper growth businesses, they're recruiting fast because they've got acquisition targets to achieve. The new starters, say SDR, BDR, usually 25 years of age, they're fresh out of uni, possibly second job, don't have a lot of experience. They've done a week, 2 weeks onboarding, start calling. They're calling, not getting the result. The SDR leader is usually a guy that was a good SDR. So he's been promoted.
Yeah. Bad habits that he learned from his previous one. Yeah.
The AE manager, or the head of sales, is managing AEs. He's also managing deals because he's trying to get deals across the line, because he's got a lack of pipeline and he's working on deals instead of on the team.
And that's a critical one, right? Like, the teams that expect their sales manager to have their own quotas, because it just creates friction. He's going to look after. Yeah, it makes attention that he or she will focus on their own quota at the expense of the team, or at least have that risk of perception that that's what the team thinks, and it just builds distrust.
Yeah. Things are changing as well. So even in the leaders that have had the training, like technology is changing the way in which sellers are engaging with their buyers, right? And the sales leaders need to have, constant coaching and mentoring themselves to be able to provide the right resources to their team. And there's some great organizations out there who spend money and they have an allocation of budget for education, and they see enablement as a strategic pillar of the business. It's not a cost center, and it's a place that we can, cut when we need to. It's just as important as their marketing budget, right? It's just as important as the money they need to spend on leads. And unfortunately that's from top down. So you need your CEO and the senior executives to really understand the importance of enablement, and know that everybody within the revenue cycle needs to be enabled.
Yeah, absolutely. And what about some of the newer roles that have come up, around sales operations. And we might get to a bit of this in the sales and marketing alignment piece when we get to that. But yeah, sales ops, sales engineers, what kind of background are you seeing for those roles and how critical are they in the team?
Yeah, so you see an emerge, like in Australia, we're slowly getting there, but revenue operations will become a very important role, just like the chief revenue officer. I mean, there's only like, I think 180 something CROs here at the moment. That'll become like a very popular role moving forward. You'll see, more CROs. Sales ops, sales enablement, and the emergence of revenue operations, again, critical parts of the business, because they're looking at systems, they're looking at process, they're looking at how they can support the sales function, and they're crucial. And again, with the emergence of tech, good high growth tech firms or companies, at least seven tech platforms. Right? How do you manage that tech? How do you manage user adoption, reporting, integration? How do they complement and align? You can't expect to put all that tech in place and it just magically works.
Yeah. Even if it's automation, it's not automagic. Someone's still got to create the content, right? And then set up the flows. Yeah. With the tech then, like what are some of those common tech platforms if someone's a little bit new to sales? What out of those seven, what are either the categories and some of the best of breed that you've seen?
So, and this is where you've got to break your tech up now. So you've got like the days of, do I need LinkedIn? Don't I need LinkedIn? That's gone. You've got to have LinkedIn and you've got to have Sales Navigator. If you're a seller today, Sales Navigator, if your boss ain't paying for it, you've got to pay for it. Then the next tech stack that builds into Sales Nav is the data enrichment tool. So gone are the days where I can't call the CMO for Curtin because I haven't got his mobile number or his email. There's data enrichment tools that allow me to get that information so I can build my list, right? So tech stack 2, sales engagement platform or a sequencer. Like there are tasks that me as a seller, I don't need to be doing because it can do it for me. So Hubspot, they've got the sequencing tool. I mean, the whole sales engagement is now a category. Gartner's created a category for it. So just like CRM, you've got SalesLoft out, Outreach, VanillaSoft, Outplay, Groove, like you can reel them off. Then obviously your CRM. And some in Australia, we still have companies that don't have a CRM.
Working on spreadsheets. Yeah.
But then your CRM, and then you've got and then within that, you've got stacks. So how do you send documents? How do you send contracts? Panda Docs, DocuSign. Now, obviously, if you're a seller, there are things that will fall outside of your control. This is where sales ops comes into it and really tries to look at the sales process and say, how can we automate this? So it makes it easier for the buyer, but it also makes it easier for our seller, right? But from a sales perspective, we've got to have that TQ and sellers moving forward, and any leader or marketing CMO listening to this needs to be looking at their sales team and going, well, do they have that TQ? Like, have they got that data literacy? Like, do they know how to look at the data and make decisions based on that data, right? Because it's gone beyond that extrovert, life of the party, smooth talker. That's gone. The seller of that's yesterday. That's not going to be successful moving forward. And marketers, great marketers, know how to know what data points to look for. And this is where the integration comes into play.
Yeah. And it makes them both more efficient and effective, right? If they can build the lead scoring or know which data to identify as the highest value prospect or the one that's ready for the next offer or it's going to close sooner, they can be more effective and efficient.
And working with this client, you'd love this. So we had the head of marketing, head of enablement, and head of sales in there. And we're having a look at some of their reports. And finally, head of marketing is like, did you know that this customer set, this particular ICP, actually converts at a really high rate? But we don't chase them. And this one, you guys are spending all your time chasing these clients, but they convert. You're getting low return on your time investment. Now, that is where the data doesn't lie. Right? And that is the whole purpose of having this technology, because it allows you to take that data and make decisions to say, well, actually, maybe we've got a better product market fit with this vertical.
Yeah.
So we should maybe spend our money and our sales force attention over here.
Yeah.
And we'll get a higher return.
Yeah. get results sooner, which is more motivating to the team as well.
Wow, there's been a lot covered in this interview so far. As a marketing leader, we know you like to spend more time taking action and less time taking notes. So we've got you covered. We packaged up all the tips, strategies, and resources from each episode into some beautifully crafted notes just for you. Not ugly AI-generated transcripts, but real notes taken by a real person on our team. To grab the notes, head on over to growthgenerators.io, look out for this podcast episode and download the notes. But be quick, they're only live for a few weeks after the episode airs. Now, back to the show.
Before we switch gears, we're going to get to this sales and marketing piece soon, this alignment, but I don't think we can leave the sales team and structure and roles conversation without talking a bit around compensation and incentivization. So, yeah, what impact does incentivization make to a salesperson's performance? And what's, again, probably contextual, but what is that right formula to attract, motivate, and retain great salespeople?
So, this is a really important discussion right now because, again, with the tech sort of boom that we're seeing, it's they need to find people for roles, and usually it's in revenue creation roles. So it's demand gen, marketing, sales, customer success, and they're prepared to pay more. And so, correct. So it's creating a bit of a talent gap and talent shortage. I've heard debates about eliminating commission structures, etc., and I'm not aligned with that because sales is one role where you want your top performers, they're intrinsically motivated by the commission. They're not earning it so they can go home and put the check on the wall and show their family. There's usually an intrinsic motivator to why they're willing to push further. Yes, there's some bad practices that we continue to see, and HubSpot's got a great report about the trust gap. But first and foremost, that cultural fit when we're hiring people needs to be looking for the right type of people. Integrity, all those basic trust, honesty, like they're things that it's a minimum, right? So as long as we've got the right people, we've got the right culture, and we don't accept certain behaviors, because remember, the behaviors you accept is the culture you create, right? So if we've got that minimum in place, then there's nothing wrong with rewarding sellers who want to go above and beyond and who are going to do the extra work required to exceed target, right? And so, but I think where a lot of, especially the assembly line, and this is where we need to think about like different parts of the funnel. If we're only rewarding an SDR or a BDR on appointments booked or sales qualified leads, right? Take it, I convert. Then you're probably going to get opportunities to your sales team that shouldn't be there because that's the only incentive for them. So, and obviously people will justify why that should be there. And an AE is like, mate, this is far from sales qualified lead. Yeah. Even when you've got a medic or a band, whichever model you've got, qualification criteria, they'll get through. So this is where you look at your compensation plan and go, right, how do we reward part on appointment or part on lead created versus lead success? Maybe to SQO, sales qualified opportunity, right? Same with AEs. How do we reward them not just on contract, but actual success? So like Microsoft, in one part of their business, they've got a great commission plan. Part up front, part on success. So how do we reward the AEs for clients that actually achieve success? So some would argue, but hang on, they can't control the success. But if they set the project up right in the first place, there should be a higher. And you know what? They should go into customer success and say, hey, how's John Smith going with, project A, B, and C?
Yeah.
Because they have a bit more care.
They should know what success looks like for different clients if they've done the research and see that.
And this is why when you look at a blueprint, it's not just, I'll take a standardized blueprint and place it in my business. There's a few nuances that you need to think about. And every blueprint should be molded and tailored for your company because it's not a one size fits all.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, totally agree. Like the work I do around sales and marketing team redesign, I like to say context is king rather than content is king, right? Because it's all contextual. Like where are they now? Where do they want to be? What's the gap and what's the next horizon to get them closer to where they want to be. And there's no perfect model or solution. Do you see OTE as kind of a pretty well-used formula around that? Yeah, over target earnings. Yeah.
And then you've got all the other leading indicators, like how much pipeline coverage, like more of your bigger companies will have, hey, you need to have 4 times pipeline coverage in any given time, just to mitigate the risk of them not hitting target. So there are some other metrics in there. And look, often I say to sellers, too many sellers focus on the end result and not focus on what's required to get to that end result. And again, our industry, there is an issue with trust between buyers and sellers. We know that there's a trust gap, right? And that's why a sales professional is different to a sales rep. A sales professional exhibits certain behaviors that makes them a professional. Anyone can be in sales, but you've got to earn the professional part, right? Your follow up, the way you do your notes, the way you confirm scope, right? So the way you think about your profession, that it's a noble profession, we're helping people, we're engaging with our audience. There are certain characteristics and behaviors that they have to exhibit, right? However, great sellers, what they do, and I've been fortunate to interview some of the top performers globally on my podcast, there's a common characteristic. They are very structured and planned. So they know literally to the day metric what they need to be doing. And they've got an incredible, ruthless desire for learning. So they're always trying to learn and seek feedback and improve. And they've got a clear plan on what success looks like. And the revenue target is not the focus. It's the daily performance metrics that allow them to get there.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It reminds me of, the sports analogy. The games are won in practice, not in the game, right? It's the 1%ers and that constant training. And with sales, because it's so cumulative. It's the amount of meetings, interviews, pipeline, everything that accumulates. And if you haven't done the work up front, you can't expect the payoff without that work. Yeah. So what other mistakes have you seen CMOs, head of sales, CROs make when hiring salespeople for the first time?
Yeah, there's a couple of things. I think hiring based on experience. So we'll only hire if you've got experience in the sector, and you're limiting yourself because people hire for mindset and the will first. One of my colleagues, he was actually became a mentor of mine, but if you've got the will, you can develop the skill, he used to say, right? So at the end of the day, if they've come with the right mindset, and obviously there are certain skills they need to have, but if they've got the right mindset and the right attitude, and they're coachable. Coachability is
That's
key.
a big one in sales, right?
They've got to be coachable. And often some people will hire based on experience and tenure, but they're not coachable. Massive mistake.
Or they'll look at the logos, like the past companies they've worked for, and especially if they've come from a big firm and they're coming to a smaller one, they're going to bring all this cred. But are they the ones who are going to put in the work?
Yeah. And sometimes they're the wrong cultural fit because they've got everything there. They've got case studies, they've got capability decks, they've got, performance marketing. They've got all these people that come into more of a smaller, maybe Series A, Series B startup. They haven't got everything. And they're like, well, where is everything?
Yeah. Who's going to do this for me?
So I think, and that coachability,
that's
probably one of the most important things that we don't give it enough respect.
What's the question that you asked to tease that out in an interview?
So I actually use Mark Roberge's formula. So for those that don't know Mark Roberge, he's the sales acceleration formula, ex-CRO of Hubspot, right? And I've heard him on a few things, and I've kind of taken his model. In the interview stage, he makes them role play. And he role plays with them. And then as they role play, after they role play, he asks them to assess themselves. And if they say, 10 out of 10, then maybe there's the lack of awareness, right? But okay. Then he provides some feedback and asks them to maybe make some adjustments. Then they do the role play again. The ones that make no changes, if just that little exercise can't do it, then there's a good chance if you get them into the actual business and you're asking them, hey, Can you maybe try this way, do it this way? They might not be open to that change. So that's your first. Now, obviously, there's other things, not just that. But role playing in interviews, for me, I do it every single time. And all my clients that I work with in the interview guides that we provide them, is we put that little scorecard and say put a use case or a case study, and I actually get some sales leaders like, you want to role play an interview? I'm like, mate, you're going to invest 20 grand on the recruitment fee. Then you're going to onboard them. You're going to spend probably 40 grand on the first 3-4 months. If they fail, the extra 20 minutes, an hour, you can't invest, right?
Yeah.
Like when you actually think about it, it's ludicrous. You're like, well, I don't. But what, you want me to do 3 interviews? That's 3 hours. But hang on, you're gonna spend 50 grand on somebody that could fail.
Yeah, it's nonsense.
I'd rather add an extra session in, ask them to present me their 90-day plan, ask them to do a bit of role playing.
Yeah.
Ask them to show me how they would run a first discovery meeting.
Yeah.
Right. Like, there's nothing wrong with that.
Totally.
Right.
Money well spent. I think it's a whole other topic, but the lack of time spent on interviewing and finding the right people for all those reasons you mentioned, the investment if you get it wrong, the difficulty in firing and the culture impact. Like, I remember when I was recruiting a director of marketing role, I think I spent about 40 hours on one person. Like, I made them do a personality test. We had a number of coffee chats, did all this work to make sure that both sides found it the right fit. And she's still at Curtin.
Yeah.
Almost, I don't know, 7 or so years later. So it kind of pays off.
Perfect fit, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, definitely worth the time. All right, so let's switch gears then, this sales and marketing alignment to deliver a better customer journey. Firstly, why do you think sales and marketing teams are sometimes, possibly often, at loggerheads or misaligned?
I think sometimes like the short-term focus, right? And that sales want leads, so marketing will go out and give them tactical leads, right? And we're forgetting that marketing is more than just leads, right? Marketing involves so many more things. And I think, and again, great marketing and sales aligned teams really understand their buyer. I can't tell you how many personas I get from a marketing team, and they're not fit to purpose for sales because they're really attribute-based, demographic-based. They're marketing persona, and they have its purpose.
Nothing about marketing pains and the jobs to be done. No.
What are the outcomes for the buyer? Like, what are the KRAs? What are the KPIs? Like, what are the challenges that they face in their role? Yeah. Right. Why should they consider change? Why should they consider changing now?
Right? What else are they considering? How else do they solve this problem?
Yeah. And so I think the first place is the ICPs and buyer personas aren't done as a collective, sales and marketing, or marketing and sales and customer success, right? Because they have a unique view on how is the use case. So how are people actually using what we sell them, right? And when you bring all those three together and really look at your ICP and buyer persona and run surveys, go and talk to them. Like I do this every week with clients. We bring in their customers and or people that they want to sell to. So the ideal, if they're looking to chase a different, bring them in, ask them. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, you take this data and you can start communicating with them differently. And I think that's the first area from an alignment perspective. It's done in silo. That's the first key problem. And then the leads that they're sharing to sales are then saying, these leads aren't good, these are crap, send them back, or we can't convert them. And then it's a blame game, right? Because somebody's then sitting there going, we haven't met a number. Oh, talk to marketing. Mate, I gave you leads.
I gave you the leads, yeah. It's a really interesting one around the buyer persona and the creating those with those three departments in mind, because I think you're right. A lot of the times they are developed from a marketing perspective and demographic, psychographics, who is there, what do they do, rather than always the jobs to be done and the stuff closer to the middle and bottom of the funnel that sales need. They need the insights around what problems are we solving, are they facing, how do they think, what are the barriers, who else is involved. And I like the idea of just bringing them in and asking them. And I think I actually listened to a podcast of yours where you talked about that. I think it was a chief technology officer or someone that you brought in with a client, and they were talking about where they had 2 different provider or 4 providers, whittled it down to 2, and ended up going for one that was twice as expensive because for him it was about, he told them, we have scope problems. You'll come in and the scope will change. We need someone that's flexible, and that provider listened to that. But and yes, and knowing how that CTO thinks, what they buy on. Because if you didn't know that, you might just go straight on price, not actually what's important to that client.
Absolutely. And the problem is, like, sellers will very quickly sell features, right? They'll sell, hey, this is what we do. But at the end of the day, people don't care about what you're selling. They only care about the outcomes that are important to them. And again, if they can't get that connection early in the conversation, they're not going to engage. And that's what great marketing does. And this is why I love, like, consumer ads, because they don't sell like cars. Like, the car, it takes you to point A to B. They sell the outcome. They sell the family, could be the people mover. They're getting in the car, they're packing the back. That picture of going around the green, and then they get to the destination point. They're all having fun. They're selling the emotion and the experience, right? There's no different to the buyer persona. Is the buyer persona has key goals. There's emotion that's driving that. There's also fear, because if there's risk, if you're listening to this going, geez, I'm not really aligned with sales, or vice versa, get in the same room, get some customers and start talking, right? Because you'd be amazed at what content you'll learn about them. And then you'll start to think differently about your value prop, about your messaging, about your ads, your webinars, your podcasts, whatever content generation you're doing, right? You'll start thinking differently.
And to build on that, your point is, if you're just thinking features, that's the functional benefits, not the social and emotional, right? So it's going through that almost jobs to be done. Where are they at different stages, and what are they feeling, thinking, seeing, doing, and making sure you're capturing that emotion, so you can kind of replay some of that back to them.
Yeah, we look over like the buyer's journey and mapping to the buyer's journey, and I think sometimes they just become a tick of the box process that we do, and we don't really give it enough consideration, right? So, and again, thinking about it kind of from that pre-contemplation stage, I like using the trans-theoretical theory of change model. Pre-contemplation, the contemplation, getting them to the point of change, because people are buying change ultimately. Just like Curtin, I'm not buying a degree. I'm buying the outcome the degree helps me achieve. I'm buying a change of lifestyle. It could be a variety of things, right? And so again, I think I see this all the time. There's just not enough marketing and sales are talking together. And that is where the evolution of the CRO comes into it, because the chief revenue officer, which again, it's really strongly adopted in tech, I think we're going to see this emerge as a role for most traditional businesses. And this can like kill the CMO. Absolutely not. The CMO has a critical role to play, but it's about bringing that alignment now between the demand gen team, customer success, and sales to actually say, hey, how do we now function together with an aligned strategy?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Similar KPIs and as one team. So there's no throwing stuff over the fence and pointing blame. It's swimming the same direction towards the same targets. And that's, I guess, one other thing. So making sure that you've got similar metrics and targets, so you're talking the same language, or sales and marketing know what each other's aiming for. If marketing's just talking about brand metrics and sales is just talking about pipeline or opportunity, then that might create a bit of mismatch or misalignment. And structure then, like, have you found through your consulting, obviously CRO's great because they're all under the one department, and obviously silos in teams can create some friction, but how much does that matter? And what advice do you give for CMOs that may not have a sales team under them as to what they can do to build stronger bridges with that sales team?
Yeah. So if there's no CRO in place and there's traditional like chief sales officer or head of sales that the CMO is working with, and they are trying to build that bridge, I think it's kind of getting that white flag and saying, hey, like, we've got to start somewhere, and actually going into the virtual now, but listening to some calls. We've got some great technology. We can hear what the customers are saying, right? Those sales conversations deliver so much insight to marketing. right? And maybe doing that with sales to say, hey, I just want to be a fly on the wall for a while.
Yep.
I just want to hear what our customers are saying. Our customers. It's not your customer, it's our customer. So I can better serve them top of funnel. So I can better engage with them. Maybe see what content they're asking you for. So I can maybe help you, give you the content needed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Because I think, again, whether it's case studies, whether it's like, we know that buyers need time. We can't force a buyer to a point of decision. Doesn't matter how strong the business case for change is, sometimes a buyer won't make change because of the pain of change is too great. Right? So they'll maintain the status quo because, you know what? I want to change. The ROI is there, but it's just moving from Salesforce to HubSpot, or everything. My reporting's integrated. This is integrated.
Yeah.
Yes, I hate it, but I can't change.
Yeah, strong inertia. Yeah.
But do you stop or do you keep educating? Do you help nurture? How do you do that? And again, this is where I think there's a great opportunity. And this is why I say sales are no longer just sales professionals. We're both part of the same journey. And we need to think like a marketer, and sales and marketing needs to think like selling. That's the first paradigm shift that needs to happen in an organization.
Yeah. And I think, Stacey Danheiser, I've interviewed her in the podcast, and she talked about jumping on sales calls. Also, Christina Del Villa talks about that in her book and the importance of that. Also, looking at customer success tickets, seeing what they're complaining about, like building that empathy and understanding direct from customers. I think you added great advice in sales and marketing, getting customers in the room and just asking them those questions. But the marketing qualified lead versus sales qualified lead, we talked about that earlier, and sometimes that causing some friction. What's the best way to develop the criteria for those between sales and marketing so both parties agree to it?
Great question. Again, this goes back to the ICP. If you're using an ABM, I'm a big fan of account-based marketing. I think that is a real big future if you're in B2B. And I think it's about looking not just at it's about saying the type of persona we have as a lead. The motivation to buy. Budget, strip that away. I shouldn't be budget qualifying early, because most deals, if there's no budget, but there's a strong business case, we should be able to get the budget. It should create the budget, right? So anyone that's using budget authority need timing needs to stop that. If your team's doing it, if you're listening, stop it, please. It's dead. Like, we should be using BANT, right? But again, we should be looking at ICP. Does it match our ICP? Should be a question, because if it matches our ICP, fantastic, right? Because it's in our hitting zone. Is it a buyer persona that's within our zone? If they're an influencer, okay, or if they're a user, then how do we then nurture that to find out what we need to then go up? Again, their motivation, if it's an inbound, right? And just make an essential use case. So is there a use case that's aligned to our product, so that product market fit? Now, if we've got that, like, we should be saying, great, there's an opportunity. They meet our ICP. They're aligned to our buyer persona. So we should be having a conversation with these people, right? So there's just basic things you can fill out on a little checklist. You can maybe put them as object fields in your CRM if you want to, and go, if they meet this criteria, then we'll progress them to an SQL, right? There's some basic stuff without going too depth with a medic or some of the other deeper qualification criteria.
What is a medic, if you can remember it off by heart?
Oh man, that's metric. It's a good one. I just did a webinar on it, actually.
Should be fresh then.
Oh man, there's a few. It's a way in which you start to look at the economic buyer, looking at the decision-making process. What are the metrics involved? So there's a few things, criteria that you're looking at. But I'm a bit reluctant to do that top of funnel, because, again, and depending on where they're coming at, and this is why we have to also lead score, because if they've just clicked the webinar and they just wanted to watch a webinar, that doesn't necessarily mean there's an intent to buy. When we know this, right? It means that something on the things triggered them to take action, and they've taken action, but that doesn't necessarily mean that, hey, I want to buy from you. Maybe if they take a few more actions and they start to show a bit more intent, then we can go, well, actually, I'm going to talk to them now, right? And this is why you have to have, at minimum, a marketing automation tool and a CRM.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Right.
you do the lead scoring and then set up your flows to keep in touch.
Watch them. I love it. I love going to the bottom of HubSpot. I'm like, oh man, they've opened this email. They've clicked that next link. They've actually downloaded this. Oh man, they've gone to the podcast page now. And now they've booked an appointment to see me. Mate, these guys are hot. And what does HubSpot rate them as? Hot.
Yeah. Ready to buy.
Yeah.
What really annoys a sales team that the marketing team may not even be aware of?
Creating content that marketing feel is buyer centric when it's actually not connecting with the buyer, right? Or they don't feel it's connecting with the buyer. So they feel it's just too, it's not conversational. It's not really moving the needle for them and doing all these activities that aren't really moving the needle for them.
Yeah. Yep. Makes sense. And any last tips on the sales and marketing alignment? If there was one thing that CMOs should be thinking about to build that strong alignment, what would you leave us with before we get to the fast five?
One thing, just spend more time with sellers. Spend more time with sellers and talking to the customers post that lead acquisition stage. Like go deeper funnel to see that journey and even go to the point of like delivery. So if you're in a traditional business and you're selling a manufactured product, go have a look at each stage of that journey, right? See what that experience is like across the entire food chain. Because I think that'll make you a better marketer. I mean, that's for me, like being able to see the whole aspect, the whole journey has allowed me to be a better sales professional.
Great advice. All right. Well, Luigi, we are now up to our fast five. Are you ready?
Yes, let's do this.
So I usually ask what are 3 essential capabilities or criteria of a high performance marketing team, but maybe for today we can make that a high performance sales team or a high performance sales and marketing team.
Yeah. Okay. The 3 essential criteria. So they need to have that technical quotient that we spoke about before. They need to be able to use technology to become a more efficient seller. They need to have the right attitude and mindset, right? Absolutely fundamental. And within that, there's a whole range of criteria, but within that, coachable, right? Absolutely. They've got to be coachable and they have to have a level of resilience. That resilience is key, that it is a brutal profession. They're going to get knocked down. They're going to get knocked down every single day.
Yeah.
And they've got to be able to pick themselves back up.
Fantastic. And how would you describe your team's culture in one word?
Chaotic. At the moment, it's chaotic. We're hiring. Yeah, it's chaotic. It's chaos. We got just so many things
going
on the go.
Yeah. I like the honesty there. It's good chaotic though, I'm guessing.
Yeah. Good or bad.
Yeah. What is one metric you've successfully used to track and measure team performance?
Wow. I'm revenue. Mine's revenue line. So that's my main kind of, if the revenue line and pipeline's there, then we're good.
Yeah. And what's one skill or capability you've learned recently you wish you'd developed much sooner in your career?
Building workflows.
Yeah.
I tell you, I build cadences as a part of what I do. I build proper inbound and outbound cadences, but actually going into the marketing tool and going through the process of building it has made me think completely different about the process.
Yeah. It is something about that visualization, isn't it? Like I do awesome. like lean process redesign and what I've done and similar. Like I love getting into active campaign and thinking about the flow, how long between they get this and that, and what would be the next best communication? What if they do this and that?
I love it. I've actually, absolutely loved it. I wish I had started on HubSpot, I don't know, a few years ago actually.
Yeah. Good stuff. And what book or books have you read you found yourself recommending to others or you think our audience would gain value from?
Yes, so ABM, Account-Based Marketing by Sangram, is an absolute killer book that I would definitely, I'm just trying to, we'll see before.
Around there somewhere.
Another one is from my colleague, Tony Hughes, Tech-Powered Sales, and Justin Michael. This is an incredible book. Really talks about how to achieve superhuman strength by leveraging tech. And obviously Seth Godin, Purple Cow for me. Seth Godin's books are just the best. Yeah,
they're good, aren't they? I love his blogs as well. And where can people go to get in touch with you or learn more about Sales IQ Global? Yeah,
so the 2 places I'm most active is LinkedIn. I try to share, content 4 or 5 times a week on LinkedIn. You should just type in Luigi, and I should be the first one that comes up in the search bar. Otherwise, I'm also on salesiqglobal.com, where my podcast is, and we have a RevOps podcast and another podcast. And yeah, we've got a whole bunch of content for sales and marketing.
Yeah, it's a great podcast. I've listened to the Sales IQ one, so anyone looking to deepen their knowledge in that, I can recommend it. Yeah. Well, Luigi, thank you so much for coming on the show. I think you've shed a ton of light on the different roles in a sales team, the different structures from assembly line to 360 to the pods, how it's changed through COVID and that changed inside sales and what the impact will be going forward, through to how to get sales and marketing aligned and the importance of understanding that customer persona, actually spending time with the customers, sales and marketing and customer success, the emergence of CROs. So as well as we covered some of the salary and incentivization. So a lot covered in the show, which I know our audience will gain value from. So thank you again for your time.
Mate, thanks for having me on.
You've been listening to Lean Mean Marketing Teams with Ty Hayes. If you love the show, please remember to hit subscribe so that you can discover more tips and strategies to build a high-performance marketing team. And if you're feeling generous, please tell someone about the show who you think would benefit. We're on a mission to help CMOs build their dream team and enable marketers to do their best work. And we appreciate your help in spreading the word.